Welcome, everybody, to this week's episode of Under Review. My name is Joe DeRosa, and I am so grateful for each and every single one of you for tuning in, listening, however you get this show. We are very close to the final preseason game, which means we are very close to one of the most unfortunate days of the NFL season, which is roster cutdown day. This upcoming Wednesday, you will see plenty of faces that have endeared themselves to Bills fans this offseason, unfortunately, not make the cut for the active roster and either be relegated to practice squad or to other pastures in the NFL or elsewhere. It's a rough time for coaches, for the organizations, and it's also a chaotic time. And especially this year, a time that I would find is one of the most difficult when it comes to predicting what this final roster is going to look like. There are a lot of question marks surrounding the Bills roster currently, be it from play itself from certain players, inexperience, injury, suspension, and it leads to a very large ongoing debate amongst the fan base of who will solidify themselves for those final few spots. We don't know. So, on tonight's episode, what we are going to do is discuss the players that we feel have the most to prove in each positional group and kind of explain who we think might have a great chance of making it, who has an outside shot, and what would really need to happen for these players to get their final spot until we learn what actually happens when the Bills shape out their final roster. And when I say we, I never just mean me. It's never just me on this show, folks. That's a lie. It actually has been a couple times. But tonight, it's not. I have a returning guest to this show, a friend of mine, someone who I really enjoy speaking to about the Bills, about ball, especially about fantasy lately because of the dynasty draft that took 3 years to finish. It's finally over, but his time on the show is just beginning. Mr. John Helmkamp. John, welcome back. It's been a bit, honestly, like a few weeks, even a few months, I would say. How has everything been? How you doing? What's the vibe like right now, man?
I'm good, man. I am excited, and it wouldn't be a show with the one and only Joe DeRosa without a bubbly at my side.
Oh, hell
So
yeah.
this
I love it.
show not sponsored by Bubbly, but should be.
Yes.
Doing good. It's been a crazy summer. It has been a few months since we've talked. I don't think that we've hopped on since any sort of training camp. I don't think that we've talked since the Bills have been back on the field. So it's been a minute. A lot has happened. Bit of a banged up sort of summer for the Bills. Hopefully take a couple weeks and kind of get right going into the regular season for the most part. Although today was a bit of a downer for sure, and I'm sure we're going to talk about that.
We are going to talk about it. We're actually going to open the show with it, which is unfortunate. But I don't have a bubbly in hand. I'm actually been on a Sprite Zero kick. I fell hard for Sprite Zero, man. I think it's just like I try not to get a lot of sugar in my diet as it is, unless it's like, the weekend or a special day of the week. But these have just become the automatic replacement. And people could say what they want, artificial sweetener, blah, blah, blah. They're tasty. I like them. And each physical I've gone to has been a success so far. I hope that doesn't change anytime soon. Knock on wood.
Also, drink your water, people.
Drink water.
Get your actual water in your life.
I don't have it on me, but it's been seen on the show a few times. But I have the hydro jug like not very far away from me. That's my go-to. I have two of them actually, one at work and one here. But yes, it is unfortunate news that we opened the show with the fact that Trey White suffered an injury today. Now, as of tonight, we do not know the severity. So it is very possible that tomorrow, whenever the show airs, this could be, us kind of overreacting and it actually wasn't that serious. I also saw today that T. Higgins went with an ankle injury and it turns out he was just fine. So it could be the same for Trey. What we know about it was that he came off the field with trainers, was able to walk under his own power, albeit very slowly, waited outside with trainers, eventually came back, and then eventually left on a cart. Now, the thing I will say is cart is a keyword that fires up every neuron in every fan's brain when they see it, that it is the absolute worst case scenario. I am not saying that it's not. It very well could be, but it also doesn't automatically mean his legs exploded and he'll never play football again. It could just mean, like I believe it was Joe Buscaglia reported, it just means they have a long way to travel. They're on a gimpy foot, gimpy ankle, and they need to be transported because it makes no sense to make them walk like the Jags did to Trevor Lawrence just a few years ago, which I still giggle at, which franchise quarterback, make him walk half a mile to the locker room on a one leg. But it's unfortunate to see that Trey went down. We're both hoping it's not serious. So I want to leave it open-ended. We don't know the news yet. But John, let's just say the path of this is a serious injury. maybe not season ending, because if it's season ending, then it's season ending. It is what it is. But
Yeah.
maybe an IR stint. I mean, what do you think it means for the corner room as far as the depth, as far as who you like to see at the CB2 position to kind of fill in for Trey? I mean, what are your thoughts on that situation?
Honestly, the cornerback room, I think we were all really excited about seeing it improve a little bit this offseason. You had first round pick Max Hairston come in, Trey White returns. Early in camp, he was killing it. He was great for like the first week of camp, and then it seems like over the last week and a half to two, he kind of trailed off a little bit. The reports weren't quite as great coming out, but you still have a lot of hope for him and his veteran presence and just his familiarity and knowledge of this defensive system in general for him to be able to be a contributor and maybe really hold it down if Harrison's going to miss a little bit of time. But now, it's possible that both of them are out to start the season. And if that happens, I don't know. You're looking at Cam Lewis. You're maybe Dorian Strong gets thrown to the Wolves early. I don't know really what the plan is. Strong, by all accounts, I think has had a really good camp. I'm happy with what I've heard about him. Jamarcus Ingram, another name that might get some looks out there. It's not great. It's not horrible though, and I don't want people to think that it's the end of the world. Now, I think where my concern mostly lies is that if the corner room isn't as strong as we were hoping it to be, especially not right away out of the gate, with the safety play being as big of a question mark as it's been, then we start getting into some territory where, okay, the secondary might be a bit of a problem spot, and that's not great. So, defensive front better get home. Let's cause some havoc up front. But we love our CB1 out there, Christian Benford, obviously Teron Johnson at his nickel position. You still have a lot of veteran experience out there, and all in all, I think the defense is going to be okay. But it might take a little bit, I think, for this secondary to kind of come together this season. It might not be a blazing hot start for this defense.
I agree with that. I think these questions can be lingering for the first few weeks of the season when you think about the situation with Cole Bishop and the uncertainty of that, or even their second safety, and now with corner. So let's say Trey White is not okay and needs 4 to 6 weeks, 4 to 8 weeks, something more severe than what we're hoping for, obviously. I would say that I'm not totally comfortable with really any of the options. It's full-time CB2. I
Uh,
loved the idea of the Bills cornerback room coming into training camp when it was fully healthy, because I had said, you got Max Hairston, who's a rookie with a really nice athletic profile, and he's going to be a lot of fun. Trey White to rotate in to take some slack off this room and really help you with the veteran presence. And then guys like Dorian Strong, Jamarcus Ingram. Those are like luxury pieces at the very back end of your corner room that if you need them for a couple plays or to fill in, I feel comfortable. But when it comes to a full-time role with guys like them and Dane Jackson, I don't feel as comfortable, just because again, they've been known to be depth pieces, but when depth pieces get called upon, that's when you start to see the cracks in the foundation because of the injuries you've suffered and what the room has turned into. It's not to say these guys are awful, but you're not going to get as high of a ceiling with that position as you once would. So we hope that Trey can get better. We hope that he can be, able to play week one and that it was just a scare. And we still have that luxury of having him and those pieces before Max Hairston comes back. And even then, I don't think Max Hairston is going to take that CB2 role from Trey. But what I would say is, just given my thoughts on McDermott and how much he values experience, I mean, you're looking at this Cole Bishop situation, and McDermott didn't guarantee him the safety job because he hasn't gotten enough reps and he doesn't feel comfortable with the fact that he hasn't. So DeMar Hamlin is very likely at this point in time, I don't think it's a guarantee, but I think it's a high likelihood that he could get this starting safety spot to at least start the season out.
yeah.
I think for experience sake and how Sean McDermott values that, a guy like Dane Jackson or a guy like Jamarcus Ingram could be your CB2 opposite. I would prefer it if you had to get the two. Jamarcus Ingram, just because I think Ingram does have the ability to play man a little bit better than Dane might, where you saw Dane kind of get dusted a bit in times last year in Carolina. I would prefer Ingram, but even then, I'm not too crazy about it. But that's the situation they're dealing with right now, John. And if Trey is actually okay and it's not anything long term, it's maybe day to day, week to week, and he can play week one, then it's all moot. But if it's worse, we're talking about yet another position that has multiple people competing for the starting role that we didn't anticipate. So, any more thoughts on that before we move on to our next topic?
It's messy. And like you said, I don't think we're gonna know. We're not gonna know until right before week one. I think you've got a couple injuries here that are lingering. Maybe there's IR usage in play for White, maybe for Hairston also. I don't know. And in which case that would kind of take those names off the radar pretty quickly. But if they don't go on IR, I think this is going to be an ongoing conversation right up until, you know, week one, right up until kickoff in terms of who's going to be out there, and we'll find out when when the ball gets snapped. You know what I mean? So it's going to be really interesting. It is unsettling. It's not a warm, fuzzy feeling for sure. Maybe this is a team that is exploring the corner market right now a little bit more. Maybe there's a potential trade out there to bring in more of a veteran presence. I don't have any names top of mind in terms of what that would look like, but it just wouldn't surprise me if Bean was kicking around or he's just watching for potential cut candidates on other teams for next Wednesday to sign somebody that gets cut and bring them in to compete. So I don't know. It's muddy.
And they won't be shy about making an attempt to get somebody that they might have valued during draft time that doesn't make someone's roster. I mean, even just this week, you saw them bring in Zy Alexander, someone that I had mentioned the Bills should potentially draft when we were
And
talking during the offseason.
and Asante Samuel Jr. today was in the building.
I
So
so I think that was a fake report,
oh,
actually.
was it?
I think
Oh man,
I'm sorry, John. I think you got Schefflered. I think you got Adam Schefflered. That
I
fake account.
did get Schefflered. I'm looking at it right now. You son of a. See, that's the problem. That's the problem with the top or with the recommended posts. It's
Yes,
not on
stay
my
away from
feed.
for
I'm
you.
not following it.
Yeah.
Don't make me look at that crap. Just let me look at
You are
who I'm
not the
following.
only one. You are not the only one who got got. Don't worry. I saw
God,
multiple people talk about it because why not, right? Like the guy knew or the person knew that they just suffered an injury. Don't know how severe it
clout
is. So
chaser.
what's the best way to get clicks? Like that's what Scheffler does. I had to mute the account because I can't stand stuff
I
like
hate it.
that. But I more can't stand it because like if I fall for it, it's on me. And I don't ever want that to happen because it's happened before and it drives me nuts. And I know how you're feeling. I've done the same. But Asante Samuel Jr., if he is cleared to play, the biggest thing that I have read about him is that he is still recovering and that his injury is very uncertain because if I recall correctly, it was his neck. And there was
Yeah.
like a lot of question marks about durability and whether he fully recovered and what that's going to look like when you talk about tackling and, kind of similar, I would say, terrain to Micah Hyde. Not saying it's the same exact injury, but rather like those were the questions you had about the long term future. I'm not opposed if they feel his medicals are clean to giving him a shot, especially with how long he's been on the open market and how low his contract probably would be right now with medical concerns. But let's see what happens with Trey White first. And hopefully it's good news because Trey's an awesome guy. Trey is an awesome cornerback. I was very comfortable with him taking that CB2 mantle this year, given how he's been playing in camp, which had looked like vintage Trey, maybe with a slight step back. I want him back. So let's see what happens with that before we overreact. But if he is gone for long term, season long, or 4 to 6 weeks, I have questions about this quarterback room and subsequently the secondary right now that I hope can get quelled as soon as week one or at least in the early part of the year. But John, I want to move on to next topic. And, it's something we talked about offline, but really the bottom of this roster. So we could say pretty comfortably like high 40s. You could even say 50 positions are pretty much solidified for this team,
Yeah.
right? Like that there's so many. This is the good thing about being a fan of a team that wins a lot. There's a lot of roster preservation. And I think Brandon Beane does a really nice job of keeping his homegrown talent on the books and having them for a long time, as you've seen this offseason with all the extensions he had, most recently with James Cook. But there is a very, very open competition at the back end of this roster for numerous positional groups. And I am very curious to hear your thoughts on this. I mean, just what are the ones specifically that you're really watching out for? What would you see the most likely outcome being? What do you think is something that would shock you? I mean, just anything you got for this topic in particular, I want to hear it.
I think that the one that gains the most attention because it's probably the flashiest position in football is the wide receiver position. And it's one where every year it seems like the last spot on the roster, the last two, is a battle for a wide receiver. At least that's been a recent trend in recent years. We know that Coleman, Palmer, Shakir are locked in. After that, you have a handful of wide receivers in Curtis Samuel, Tyrell Shavers, Elijah Moore, Laviska Chenault. Those four, probably more than anything, are competing for probably 3 spots on the team. So one of those four is probably going to miss, in my opinion. I'm kind of going out and saying that KJ Hamler doesn't make it. I think that he's kind of an odd man out at this point, although you never know. Maybe he surprises because of his route running abilities and his speed. He's also freaking hilarious. Love him in Hard Knocks. Put a microphone on him all the time. Like, I just would pay a lot of money to listen to that nonstop. But I think the wide receiver position is going to be a really fascinating one. And it depends on the usage that you're looking for. Laviska Shenault really could be a factor on special teams. There's different things that you can do with him as that really kind of big hybrid, get the ball into his hand type guy, like some running ability too. Curtis Samuel, I think because of the cap, because of the money that's invested into him, I think that he's probably safe, even though he hasn't had the greatest training camp and he's been injured for about a month now with hamstring, but he was able to finally get on the field like this week and start getting back a little bit. So it's going to be interesting though. He has had no reps in 11 on 11 with Josh Allen this entire preseason. So if he does make the roster going into week 1, you know, they haven't connected in 11 on 11 since last season, which is not ideal. Tyrell Shavers, I think he's the fan favorite for that last spot in the wide receiver room. What are your thoughts? I think that he's showing some ability where he's really developed a little bit more in his route running and in his releases. I think it's polished up a little bit. There's still room to go there, but in terms of what he brings to the field as a deep threat, I think he's an interesting 6th wide receiver on the roster.
No, I totally agree. Last week when I had Bruce Nolan on, I had said that it felt like Tyrell Shavers had the job. We kind of debated it just because Elijah Moore was getting run with the ones, but then this past game, you saw Tyrell Shavers kind of lap him in a way. And I think that Tyrell Shavers has that spot right now. I think when it comes to the actual player, the speed that he can bring, at least play speed he brings, is useful for this lineup that really needs separators down the field, but also the body and the frame. Even if you don't think he's the most physical guy, I would argue that it's still good to have that frame in the red zone, still good to have that frame on the line, still good to have it on 3rd and short. And then paired with them trying to give him more run with special teams and trying to see something from him there. The biggest thing for me when McDermott made that comment a few weeks ago about like the special teams and the reps and the improvement he needs to see, almost made it sound like they're hoping he can because they want to have him on this back end. And I think he has it right now. And I think we'll get to this a little further, but with the wide receiver room, I have some thoughts on the back end, including him and some other players. But I think, you know, it's so competitive. It's really, and that's what makes it so tricky because it's not just the fact that you have some uncertainties in the back end of your wide receiver room or your safety room or whatever you want to call it. It's the fact that even with those, the clear cuts that come out of it, you still have IR candidates that you're probably going to put on very soon. You still have suspensions you have to deal with, probably 4 to 6 spots. I would say if Trey's injury is not serious, I'm anticipating 4 open spots with those suspensions and IR combined. I'll spoil it right now. I think the IR is going to likely be SVPG and Max Hairston. I don't think they're going to want to rush Max Hairston back. I think they're going to want him to be as healthy as possible for when he is able to go, especially for someone that just had a knee injury that was a scare, but you don't want to run the risk of anything more severe. And then I think obviously for your suspensions, Hoyt and Ogunjobi being out, they have to offset that. So I think it really is like 4 open spots. And I think that that's going to be really, really tough to decide who gets those last couple because there's so much debate about how many wide receivers they're going to carry. Hey, how many DBs are they going to carry? How many linebackers? And the reality is, your guess is just as good as mine, but we're going to try and at least go through these positional groups and find who we think has the most to prove, who we think has like the likeliest chances of right now, and hope this take doesn't really age like milk. And John, well, I want to bring it straight to the topic. Now, quarterback, we could start with, I think quarterback is transparently going to be Josh Allen and Mitch Trubisky. I don't think that would be any surprise. I don't think Mike White
Yep.
makes the roster. I think they're going
Same.
to, despite the fact that I would personally like Mike White, I also think having Mitch as a backup is valuable only because not just the rapport he has with Joe Brady, the room, Josh, but if you see a ramp up in play action this year, that benefits Mitch Trubisky. That's where he's at his best. You give him space to create, you give him space to roll out. He actually can make his money that way. I hope to God he never plays a regular season snap unless the game is
Right.
completely in the Bills' hands by like 30 points. But I think if you were in a situation where Mitch had to come in for a game, 2 games, and you are talking about an offense that is doing a ton of, again, power running and just really hammering you with the ball, paired with Mitch just getting room in the back and being able to roll out, I think that could be okay. I think it
Yeah.
can sustain you for some time. And I think he's the more optimal quarterback to have that. So I would choose him still. I mean, any debate on quarterback? Do you think Shane Buechele gets his shot this year, John? What do you think?
Nope.
Nope.
it's
Hell
Mitch
yeah.
Trubisky.
It's Mitch
I
Trubisky.
don't expect there to be much of a fight there. Love Mike White. He's been a great addition to the room. Everyone likes him. He's a tough SOB that can hang in there and get punched in the mouth and get right back up for sure. But I totally agree. Trubisky's best when he's on the move. And if that is the expectation for this offense this season, I think he's the best fit skill set wise and familiarity to be the number 2.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I don't really have much more to add on that because again, it's Josh's room. But running back, another one that I don't think there's any debate on. James Cook, Ray Davis, and Ty Johnson's how I see it shaking out right now. And I don't Frank Gore Jr. has had a nice preseason, mostly.
Yep.
A couple issues. But I think that there really just isn't room. That's kind of
Yeah.
what it is. I just feel like the room's way too established. So I don't think really there's a running back right now that has the most to prove, unless God forbid Ty Johnson, if he plays, goes down with some sort of injury, knock on wood. And then in which case I think Frank Gore Jr. is your next in line. So I would say he probably has the most to prove just from a standpoint of like, if I have a really good third game and there is an injury, I'll get that spot, especially with Darrington Evans nursing something and that now being kind of a more open path for him. I mean, what do you think about that? Is there any thoughts of really, one, any running back usurping anyone in this room, but two, who that would be if it happens?
No, I think the room, barring injury, is set. I think that it's pretty clear cut that way. Frank Gore Jr., I think there might be a little bit of truth to the fact that he might be auditioning for another team. I think that he could be a cut candidate that they hope to get back on the practice squad, and I think another team might pick him up. I think that he's shown some really good burst and vision, and I think that there's going to be some other teams that might be interested in him. So if we get him back on the practice squad, I will be thrilled. But I think we might see him in another uniform.
Yeah, either that or practice squad if you think that there's an abundance of running backs. And, it
Right.
sucks because I like the player. I like what he brings, but it's just that timing. It's a team that had the room satisfied and they just needed someone on the fringe in case they had to tap in and they never did. And, if he was a crazy pass blocker, if he was a crazy special teamer, I think it would help his case a little bit more. Because then maybe they'd feel like, okay, well, we don't need to pay Ty Johnson. We have this guy we drafted. But Ty Johnson just does those things so demonstrably well that they brought him back on a contract and they are just probably going to roll with that. So I unfortunately don't see it for him. It hurts because I love Frank Gore and I think his son is a talented player. I hope if it's not with the Bills, he does get an opportunity because I think he definitely deserves it. But I just don't think it's realistic right now if this room stays healthy that he takes it. And I don't think there's really any running back currently that has a chance to really prove much other than like, if someone gets hurt, I'm here. And in which case, like practice squad, I hope that's Frank Gore. Or
Me
if
too.
Evans heals up and they don't, if they decide to keep him or whatever, like whatever goes on with Evans long term, I don't know if he's going to stay in the nether if we ever see his name in regular season. But I would argue that that's another quality option only because of the return experience. And I think he's a decent runner too. But to me, it's FGJ I would like to keep. I don't think it happens. Wide receiver, John. The perilous Murky waters of wide receiver, the most annoying conversation that we have every single year, whether there is a good set of receivers, whether it is a question mark as far as the full roster goes. Khalil Shakir and Keon Coleman and Josh Palmer to me are locks.
Yep.
I would also argue that Curtis Samuel, while not being a fan favorite currently, is a lock. I will keep reinforcing the fact that one, the money is that he is owed is so much that the only way the Bills are going to get a trade partner is if they eat the money entirely or a majority. I don't think Brandon Beam wants to do that. But also, this is not a proven enough wide receiver room to justify giving up a weapon.
Yeah.
I call Curtis Samuel a weapon. When Curtis Samuel is healthy, he is an incredibly useful piece in this wide receiver room. He came through in numerous moments for Josh Allen and co. in the end of the regular season and in the playoffs. He is your essential slot handcuff. Essential. It's not even a word. Or it might be. I don't know. Essential slot handcuff to Khalil Shakir. He provides you with that lateral field separation ability, but can go upfield in a pinch if you need him to. It's not where you'd prefer him, but he can do it. Speed, motion, all these things that you can do with him. I don't think it's worth it to let him go in any capacity right now. I hope the Bills don't do it. And I don't think they have the luxury to do it because I ask you this, John. Let's say Curtis Samuel does get traded, does get cut. Who is better than him outside of those three I listed right now on this roster that you would feel 100% comfortable slotting in his place as your primary slot backup to Khalil Shakir? Who? And you can be honest, if you got someone, tell me. But
I'll tell you, it's a very similar conversation to Curtis Samuel. I've liked Elijah Moore since he came into the league. Both of them, it's a health concern. So if it's just straight up, we're taking health out of the equation, and they're both like Curtis Samuel's the fourth best wide receiver on this team. If health was not a question at all, and that's the only problem for me is that he's had no work at all this preseason, but he's such a veteran and he's been around the team and he was here last year and he has the money owed. I'm with you. I think odds are that he's on this team as the number 4 wide receiver, unless they're just looking at it like this guy can't stay healthy. We can't count on him. It's not worth the roster spot, but you don't, like you said, you don't have that luxury. Elijah Moore is not a guarantee to stay healthy either. It's not like you have a super healthy guy waiting in the wings behind him that can do something similar. Other than that, is there anyone that has a similar skill set? KJ Hamler, also health concern. You've got 3 backup slot type wide receivers that all have injury histories. It's a very similar prototype that you have. So I think you give the nod to where the money is. You're already paying the guy. Yeah. Keep him on. You know what I mean? Like keep him on the roster.
It's not like we got to understand.
By the way, I can't wait to talk about wide receivers in round 2 of the NFL draft next year again. It's going to happen every year.
Or defensive lineman, edge rusher, defensive tackle.
Corner, safety.
I made a joke so many times that they're going to do the exact same draft strategy that they did this past year. This upcoming year, no matter how good it is. That's the thing. Could be a great D-line, but they're losing pieces and they're going to have to replenish. And I also just looked this up. I want to just clarify something earlier. I forgot Evans was placed on the IR, but he wasn't waived. So they do still have him floating. That to me is almost like he's hurt enough where it's justified, but it might help them stash him in a way so that when he comes off IR, he can go straight to the practice squad and they have him at that break glass in case of emergency. But I do wonder if that means, well, now there's more of an incentive to try and retain Frank Gore Jr. on the practice squad if they can and hope someone doesn't poach him. But regardless, with Curtis Samuel, it doesn't feel right to cut him or trade him yet. I understand fan frustrations. I really do. I hate injuries. I don't want to see them happen. And I hate when it's recurring because obviously you need players to get reps. You need players to have chemistry with your quarterback, especially in the receiving room. And when you see someone go down consistently, it inhibits that and in turn can make an offense worse. So it's not ideal. But Curtis Samuel has been ramping up consistently for the past 2 weeks. We have seen him on the practice field going from not practicing or doing very light work to limited, and will soon ramp up enough where he's going to be able to go on a game field with the team. And I do think with this trajectory, he's going to be ready for week 1. It makes 0 sense for me to move him right now. I think he's your wide receiver 4. And again, I just simply don't think this room is proven enough to justify moving on from a proven player when he's healthy for a player that you hope can replicate his play to the same degree, also can stay healthy, I just simply don't think that player is on this roster.
Yeah,
And
and
moving on. Yeah.
what are you gonna do? You're gonna move him in a 6-7 pick swap and have to retain half of his salary? Like that's not
Yeah.
worth it at all. That doesn't
It's
make any
it's
sense.
it's worth it if you have Stephon Diggs asking to leave, and even if the dead cap is
Right.
$31 million, a team gives you a second round pick for him. That's a
Right.
completely different story.
Sure.
No team is giving you the second rounder for Curtis Samuel right now,
You're
and
not
no
getting a
team,
fifth.
you're getting a sixth or a seventh at
Right.
best, and you just had to eat all that money. And like, there's always the annoying argument of addition by subtraction. It's not addition by subtraction. It's pure
No.
subtraction. The player is gone. Your room did not get better as a result of this. Even if you want
Right.
to say the cap that they accrued is a net positive, cool. What are you spending that on? And
Right.
also, are you spending it on something that's going to help make your offense better? Is there a receiver floating out there that you could justify spending that money to that's worth it? Like, are you going to give it back to Amari Cooper? Like, keep Curtis Samuel, keep the dude
Yeah.
who knows your playbook, keep the dude who's played with Josh Allen, and just see how it goes. And you know what? If it fails this year and the injuries are bad, and it gets to a point where, like, okay, he cannot stay on the field at all, then I'll entertain this conversation a hell of a lot more next offseason. But I
Sure.
just think it's way too premature right now to say get rid of him. Like, the dude who got your last touchdown catch in the playoffs, he was
Mhm.
very important in that game, in the Denver game. Like, yeah, he didn't have 1,000 yards, he didn't have 100 yards, but he still was productive. Like, that's
Yeah.
still a productive player. Just let him get healthy and let's see what this turns into, because it's kind of insane that we're entertaining this, to be honest. But besides him, this is where it gets tricky, because there's one question you have to ask yourself to start. How many wide receivers are the Buffalo Bills planning to keep? And that answer for me for the longest time, John, was five. But then
Right.
two suspensions happen. Players go to the IR. And we see comments about how vague it is after your top three in this room. And also, members of those top three got banged up. Josh Palmer to a lighter degree. Khalil Shakir has an ankle sprain. He will probably play in week one, but will he be as effective as he normally is? I asked this question with Bruce last week. So your bottom of your wide receiver room now means that if you only keep five, it's Curtis Samuel ramping up from injury, and then a fifth option, which, as I mentioned before, as you mentioned before, I think it's Tyrell Shavers. But I will say this. I think that because of their injuries, this is honestly, I knew this was going to happen. This is turning into a full blown prediction, but I don't even care at this point. I'm still going to read it. I'm so heated from the Samuel conversation that, like, I just want to say screw it. Like, let's just predict the roster.
Scorched
And
earth.
just
Let's go.
yeah, abandon the ideals. Whatever you saw in the intro of the show, folks, that was the old me. So the six wide
Times
receivers
have changed, guys. It's
times have
different
changed
now.
in the 32 minutes and 50 seconds since the show started. It's anyways, because of the injuries, because of the suspensions, I feel far more inclined to say that it's likely they go six wide receivers. Now, it's not that I think they would have done this if they had those players, but I think that because these players are off the roster, it makes them reevaluate where they might need more depth. And I think that the depth at the positions for Hoyt and Ogunjobi is okay to start. Whereas I feel a lot less comfortable with the depth at wide receiver. And I think you can afford yourself the luxury to start your season with six to see what it feels like and how it works as far as pass catching goes. Now, I've said this. Why I wanted 5-2 was because I think they spread the ball around so much that do you really need to roster that six wide receiver? But I would argue right now, because of the ambiguity of the back end of the room, it's okay to do so. And they weren't afraid to end up with six last year at some point. I don't think they're committed to five only to start. I think it's really just a matter of how comfortable they are. So for me, if they go six, John, Shavers has my five. I think your six is a three-man race between Elijah Moore, Laviska Shenault, and Christian Wilkerson. And I think the edge of it is probably going, even though he's more limited in his role on the team, I think it goes to Elijah Moore. But I'm going to pitch it back to you. Again, you mentioned it briefly before, but any other thoughts back into this receiver room? What do you got?
It's so tight. Like I just don't know. I like having opinions and I like giving my analysis and all that stuff, but I'm looking at the back of this receiver room and I'm just going, I don't know. It might come down to the personality they like best in the meeting room. Like I don't know what's going to be the deciding factor at the end of this. Tyrell Shavers gives you a prototype that you don't really have in the rest of the receiver room, so it makes sense for him to be there. Curtis Samuel, KJ Hamler, smaller slot guys that have battled injuries, or not Curtis Samuel, rather. Sorry. I mean, KJ Hamler and who am I thinking of? Why did my brain just break? Isn't there another slot guy that I'm thinking of?
You're talking about Virgil?
No.
Because Virgil's not here anymore. Yeah,
No,
Chanel.
that's everyone.
Yeah,
I'm getting confused. The
yeah.
prototypes all just blend together. But KJ Hamler and Curtis Samuel, that feels redundant. So I don't think that Hamler's going to necessarily make it. So Chenault, maybe just because he gives you something different in terms of the physicality, in terms of the, after the catch or on handoffs or on special teams, just kind of a little bit more versatility in his bag. Maybe he gets the final nod just because it's something different. But I'm not confident, at all about the back end of this wide receiver room in terms of which way they're going to go if they carry 6.
Yeah, it's anyone's guess is if they go 5 or 6. I'm going to say 6 to start, and I'm going to say it's Moore, and I'm going to say it's Shavers. I think Shavers finally gets his shot. I think with Elijah Moore, even if you think he's more limited than Chanel as far as what he can bring to the team overall.
Oh, Elijah Moore. That's the name that I was missing.
Just not even from like receiving, but also the fact that Chanel can return. I just think, again, it's skill set in your wide receiver room. And I think that Moore brings something that they desperately needed. And I think if you want to talk about, well, Josh Palmer is the primary separator, Shakir can do it across the field, but you want someone who could probably do it upfield too. I think Moore can do that. So I'd be comfortable with him taking the 6. It's disappointing that he hasn't had like a more loud training camp, but I think they're really willing to stick with him. Maybe they're not. But I would say so just for the contract they gave him, waiting till post draft to bring him on. And again, just like experience in the league, being a younger player still, and someone that we've seen Josh Allen at the least make attempts to target. And at times he's been able to get open. If you look back at games, it's not a lost cause. I was just hoping for more. But again, like it's all about your expectations of what Elijah Moore was going to be in this receiving core this year. And to me, I always kept him tempered and modest as much as I thought he was a floor raiser. And he still can be if they keep 6. And if they keep 5, I still think it's Shavers. And I'd be very happy for him because he's more than earned it. He's paid his dues. He's a guy that I think in all the opportunities he's been given has shown something to differing degrees, but has shown you something. Even last year in the regular season blowout against the Jets, he took a screen to the house. Like, give the guy a shot. Just let him get his longest, run, and I'd be very happy with it.
Longest receiving touchdown on the season last year by a wide receiver.
Hilarious. And it's that literal only reception. His only one.
69 yards. Nice. House call. Just the
was
longest
it his only
reception
target?
here.
Or was
maybe
it was either his only target or he was targeted twice. I can't remember. But only reception, 69-yard touchdown. Nice. And I hope he makes it. Nice. All right. The wide receiver room, I'm very interested to hear what people have to say, by the way. So, like, the show is going to be posted after the fact. Like, this is a pre-recorded discussion. So that's really what I want people to hammer home in the comments if they can. Like, that to me is something I want to hear because I feel like that'll be a divided answer, but maybe not. Maybe everyone thinks it's 6. Maybe everyone thinks it's 5 and I'm the odd man out. I really don't care because at the end of the day, we'll find out on Wednesday, but I am excited to hear what people say. When I say I don't care, I mean, I don't care if I'm wrong because I'm always open to being wrong because it meant something cool happened. Maybe. I don't know. Moving on to tight end. Maybe. Dalton Kincaid, Dawson Knox, Jackson Hawes, and Reggie Gilliam. Zach Davidson, I just don't think makes the roster. I don't think he's had very good preseason. And again, I think they brought in Hawes for a reason, and that's to be their primary blocking tight end, their inline guy. Like, I know, Killdozer. I love Killdozer. I love that, like, when we saw, Kincaid go down and Knox go down for some time, and they needed tight ends with the ones, that it was Hawes and Davidson. But I was like, damn, dude, like, I know it's because of injury. I know it wouldn't have happened otherwise, but I love seeing an early establishment with Allen and Hawes in case you want to use him at times. And they probably can. Eric and Ann have talked about how, like, within short yardage, he could be very effective. And I think he would be. But his blocking is just, it's winning him the job. Like Quentin Morris, when they had him, he was their blocking guy. They're going to run a ton of sets where they have Hawes and Gilliam on the field together. And it's going to be a lot of fun. He's got that spot, and I think it's 4 tight ends. And I don't really think anyone on the bubble. If you talk about most to prove, it's Zach Davidson. Like, Zach Davidson, to me, has the most to prove because he has one game to basically say, hey, wait, I'm still here and I could be effective too. But again, like, Hawes is the superior blocker. And even if he's not the superior receiver, well, Kincaid and Knox are going to get primary snaps and they're going to get a brunt of those receptions. So I don't really
Yeah.
think it matters for him. I don't dislike Zach Davidson. Like, I was excited when he was active last year and I was rooting for him to do more. But I just think, given how they've constructed it and what the identity of their offense is, Hawes just fits the bill more. So it's Davidson with the most to prove. But I think at the most, it's probably going to wind up, barring injury, knock on wood, being Davidson, practice squad, and Hawes as your final. Well, unless you count Gilliam, your final tight end.
Yeah. Call Gilliam a fullback, a tight end, whatever you want to call him. But this team and their ability to run some really creative run concepts this year with Gilliam, Hawes, and your sixth offensive lineman
Oh,
on the field in Alec Anderson is going to be absolutely mental. This is what we talked about like right after the draft. When they drafted Hawes, I was already concocting these plays in my mind.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, oh man, put Anderson on one side, Hawes on the other, have Hawes like go in motion and pull, and then you have this cavalry of bulldozers around the outside for James Cook or Ray Davis to take 140 yards. Like, it's going to be beautiful. I've been pounding this drum since the draft. Jackson Hawes is like the nastiest blocking tight end I've ever seen. He's
awesome.
Ridiculous. He eats souls and crushes pancakes for breakfast. He is phenomenal in that role. And it's a very specific role. But like you said, I think he's got some chops in the receiving game as well. It's not his calling card, but I think that he can do it. And he's going to be, we talked about this. I think I made this joke back in the spring. He's going to be that like obscure trivia fact where it was like, who caught Josh, or like who was there on the receiving end of the record breaking touchdown reception for most players to catch a receiving touchdown in a season?
Yeah.
It would be Jackson Hawes, the 11th guy to catch a touchdown or whatever it is.
Right on.
I love this tight end room, barring health, but Hawes to come in there as just an absolute road grader with a mean streak. He's going to be a tone setter for sure. And definitely, I love it. I cannot wait. Give me like the power runs.
John, I wish that there were fantasy points given to blocking tight ends. Like, I wish there was a system where we could get points to draft, where you could draft a tight end and he could earn points from his blocking. I don't know how you'd ever measure it, but like, oh my God, he's so much fun. It's just fun if you're a fan of running the ball, if you're a fan of what they're doing here. He fits it so well. He's someone I wanted before the draft ever happened. When they got him, I was live, John, and that was awesome because everyone kept saying his name. My heart like fluttered. I was like, yes, like, I will champion this man. I know I've been not had a good track record, but again, I know what to expect from Jackson Hawes, and that's just beating people up. And I think he's going to do that. But what I really like about him, again, red zone, just red zone, power, running. Whether it's not a sneak with Allen, whether it is a sneak with Allen, get him in line. Just get him out there and do more damage with that guy next to Alec Anderson if you can. But also, like, so many things. I really like Jackson Hawes, and I think he's got the spot. I think he doesn't really have much left to prove. I feel for Davidson because Davidson's been in the league for a few years, and I don't think he's a bad player. Like, I think he could start on a different team. I just think with what the Bills do and how the room is shaken out, they got it. Like, this is their unit. And I think for Davidson, it would best suit him to play on a different team because I think he'll have a better path to playing time where he could show his receiving chops there if he doesn't just wind up on the practice squad and be a stash. But I think that would happen before he gets poached. Definitely. So we'll see what happens. And if there's a time during the regular season where Davidson comes up, so be it. I'm comfortable with that. I like him. Mm-hmm. I just don't think he's earned a starting spot. But offensive line, John, this is a murky one a bit too, just at least the back end. I have our standard starting lineup. I have Alec Anderson. And then I was torn on keeping Chase Lunt here or not, but I do have Ryan Vandemark and Tylen Grable. Grable's gotten reps with the ones. Vandemark's gotten reps with the ones when Spencer Brown was out. I think both those guys are needed. I think my
so what's that 9 with VPG on IR?
I think I have it as 8 actually. It could be 9, but I think
Dawkins, Edwards, McGovern, Torrance, Brown. Yes. Anderson is your 6.
Vandemark,
Lunt.
I'm torn. I want to keep Lunt because I think Lunt, like if I'm building it, I should have framed this episode as how we want to build it. I should have done that, but hindsight. I wish I had made it that way because like I really like Lunt. I think the athletic side of him, especially with Aaron Cromer molding him, is awesome. I think that if you can get him on the roster and keep him on the back end where he could still work and practice and not have the risk of being poached by a different team, but he's probably not getting an immediate path to playing time, the better. Because I really think you can mold this player into something special. I
Yeah,
don't know
I'd
if
rather
they do
keep him.
that.
I'd
Yeah.
rather keep him. I love his athletic upside. I love, like you just said, giving him to the coaching staff there, and their development with offensive linemen has been such a proven thing. I mean, he just feels a little bit Spencer Brownish to me, just that real move offensive tackle, that guy that can get out in space. He's so good at that. And I really feel like there's something there. Um, I would love to keep him on the roster. So if he's up and uh, Denmark is down, then that's 8 with
Yeah.
SVPG on IR.
Yeah, him being on IR is another thing too, because he would absolutely be here as our backup center, apparently,
Right.
because I don't think Anderson's gonna take that spot from him right away.
No.
That would make it 9 with the IR stint. I think they go in 8, and then if it's like a short-term IR thing for SVPG, he just comes right back, slots in, and you could probably kick out someone from a different positional group. But that's really where I have it right now. I'm pleased with the offensive line. Like, I don't think there's any shakeup. I would say like some of the depth pieces, like again, we mentioned Lunt, but other guys that are kind of competing for those fringe spots, whether you want to talk about Clayton, whether you want to talk about Garage or like some other players that might work for the interior side. Because I would argue that they would need depth for the interior. I just don't know who's really separated themselves enough to warrant a starting spot right now. And I wouldn't know if they want to maybe work, which even though Chase Lund is built like a Bills tackle,
Yeah.
freakishly large and freakishly
Yeah.
lengthy and really not a guard profile. You never know with Aaron Cromer if he wants to try and convert him to something interior or multifaceted. But yeah, that's where I have it right now. SVPG comes back from an IR stint to make the room 9. I don't think they're going to. I mean, maybe they try to offset it with again like one of their practice squad interior guys, and then they go 9 that way. But yeah, that's kind of where I have it, John. Any other thoughts on this before we move on to defense?
I don't think so. What a luxury to bring back your top 6 offensive linemen from last year, though, and just keep that continuity is a beautiful thing. Like, I'm very excited to see this unit, which was arguably the best in the NFL last year. To see them return and keep gelling is good.
Totally agree. And I'm very confident in the room. I'm confident in any decision they have made, especially with Aaron Cromer at the helm. It's just a sound unit that they've completely transformed for over the past couple of years and made into a bully in the NFL that can go toe to toe with any line. And, in
Yep.
the playoffs last year, it's not that they were bullying them per se, but they got their punches in on Baltimore. They got their punches in on Kansas City. They can compete with any unit. And that's a really nice luxury to have. So I hope the top stay healthy. But I even like the depth players. Like I really like Tylen Grable. I really do. I think he has starting potential. If
Mm.
someone goes down, I really feel comfortable with him and his profile as a fill-in tackle if you need him to. I hope that doesn't happen, but I like it's a good luxury to have players like this in your depth. And I again cannot speak enough praise for Cromer in the unit. But I want to move on to defense. So the D line is where things can get tricky for people because of the suspensions. But I actually had an easier time with this. I think just spoiling D line in general. So that's edge rushers, defensive tackles. They're going to have for their edge group Rousseau, Boza, Jackson, Epinesa, Solomon. And then for their interior, Oliver, Sanders, Jones, Walker, and Carter. I don't really think there's any need to provide more to those rooms.
Nope.
I am, a little bit weary about the uncertainty of their interior defensive line, but I think that it's so high variance because it could either really be terrible to start for the season because of the inexperience, or these guys catch on quickly and all of a sudden Sanders and Walker are providing ample depth and an extreme boost to the point where it's actually a formidable unit. But that's how I see it shaking out. And when it comes to having the most to prove from this entire room, I mean, I think that Jackson's making the roster, but I would like to see him continue his nice preseason. I don't think Epinesa, Rousseau, or Boza have to do anything. I think Solomon has had an exceptional preseason, and I have no reason to believe he would be fringe anything. I think he has a roster spot, and he's going to get a lot
so
more
excited
work this year.
I'm so excited about him. Like
He looks good. He looks
last
good.
year when they drafted him, it was like, okay, you're going small. Like that is a small edge, but his metrics in terms of pass rush in college and just his ability to get to the quarterback were phenomenal. Like
Most sacks in the
top
nation.
tier. Yeah, absolutely unreal production. And to see that translate, he got a few reps in the regular season, end of the regular season last year, made him count, got a sack in one of those blowout wins. I can't remember who it was against. And then, yeah, looking good throughout camp and preseason this year. I love him as a depth rotating, just passing down speed edge. He's a guy that you can put in third and long situations and be like, hey, pin your ears back and go, and watch him get to the quarterback. It's great. He's just a nice rotating weapon to have out there at edge. I love it.
I can't wait. I can't wait to watch him in more action. And I think the fact that it hasn't just been his pass rush, but his run defense has developed too.
Yeah.
He's making plenty of case to get a lot of work. And I feel so good about him at the back end of this room. Like I really do. And again, true third and long, let him rip. Just let him rip for whatever reason you need to. If it's because Rousseau has to come out to catch a breath, if you feel like Boza needs to be on a snap count to start, if you're worried about durability, if you don't think Landon Jackson would give you the same effectiveness right away, which I feel like that would be the case, let Solomon rip. I'm so happy for him, and I hope he keeps it going. He's a really fun player, looking like a really fun player. And
you want a race car package of Javon Solomon, Dion Walker, Greg Rousseau, and AJ Epinesa.
You do that? You want to go with the freaks? You want to go with the length?
Yeah.
If you're going to go with the length,
just give me a freak race car package. Dion Walker, line him up in like a one shade on the inside on a third and a million, and just have everyone just pin and go. That'd be great.
And Walker,
can't wait. There's so many. We talked about this too after the draft. The versatility on this defensive line now, the ways that they can mix and match, the ways that they can move people into different positional alignments and plug and play different pieces. They're really looking at this like, okay, we need to just have 8 to 10 guys that can go out there and rotate and move around and line up in different places and just be disruptive and be fast.
Yeah.
They're kind of taking a little bit of the Philadelphia Eagles playbook a little bit in terms of how Philly has had these just waves of defensive linemen coming in. Yeah. I love it. I loved the attack in the draft. We talked about it after the draft. Loved the approach, loved the attack to it. And so far, all those guys that they drafted this year have had good camps. They've all been like, hey, definitely. Cool. Sanders has popped. Walker has had some pop plays. Jackson has had some pop plays. It's like, cool. Everyone's showing up to the table, and that's really, really great to see. Yeah. So I feel good about this defensive front. It's a little bit weird. It's, you might lack a little bit in the interior, like you mentioned, with like needing a true 1T, like a true clogger in the middle. I still wish we had that prototype. Still wish we got a Derek Harmon or Kenneth Grant type guy to plug in there on the inside. Yeah, Tyleik Williams. Like I still wish that had happened. Maybe that's the approach next year. I don't know. I've got NFL draft on the mind year round, guys. I've already been messing with my 2026 spreadsheets. So
I love it.
The draft is never too soon.
Yeah.
But yeah, all in all, I love the versatility and the ability to get to the quarterback in this defensive front.
Definitely. And I will say this, like, there have definitely been lows for the highs for both of the rookie interior linemen and Landon Jackson. But I'm okay with that because that's kind of what I expected to start. Yeah. And if you're seeing those highs come in like significant moments and they're powerful. It's not just like, yeah, there's like the more modest quality run defense rep, which you have seen from them where they're able to kind of shed their block and create disruption and displacement. It's more like there's also really fun pass rush reps where if the offense, specifically any offense that wants to attack the Bills with quick timing can't, they're going to destroy that quarterback and destroy that offensive line on plays. And I think that variance is something I expect. So I'm more comfortable with it. I'm not, oblivious to the lows for these players, but I think buying into like what the havoc and what the variance will look like when it's good is a lot of fun. And it will lead to some very advantageous moments for the Bills when it comes to time of possession, when it comes to stalling out drives like that will help them. And that's what they predicate themselves on. I mean, I've just made my peace with the fact that run defense to them it's not an afterthought. It's not something they don't care about, but they're set in their ways. They're going to live by the sword and die by the sword. And it's going to piss you off. It's going to piss me off, but that's just what they want to do. But they have the bodies to execute that philosophy. And if they do it well, it works. Like we talk a lot about, the turnover luck, and turnover luck isn't sustainable. And my argument is, I don't think it's like, yes, it's turnover luck. I also think they're consistently generating it because of how much
Mhm.
variance they play with, how much havoc they create. You force quarterbacks and offenses into these situations where you're constantly coming for their throat, even if it leads to you getting punched in the mouth because you left some vacated space and it leads to an explosive play, which sucks. That very same drive, they can get right in the backfield and set you back 10 yards or make you press,
Yep.
and your throw is off time, and all of a sudden it's a turnover or a pick or a tip pass or something along those lines. And that the biggest thing for me, a totally separate tangent right now, is they are getting their hands up a lot.
Yeah.
I am really, really excited for that fact, especially with a guy like Deion Walker, because like if you have that
He's a
one tech
mountain.
spot, you can't see. I don't know how a quarterback is able to lift a ball over his hands. Like if
No.
they're consistently trying to get it up and he's in whatever lane he can be in to get in your face and just prevent that and prevent your vision. Oh man, like I'm getting excited about it. But again, I'm
Yeah.
realistic, and all this to say, because I got way off topic. Whew, this is a fun episode, John. I'm like almost sweating right now.
It's because we're almost back, man. We're like
Oh,
right here.
yeah.
Roster
Defen
cutdown means the preseason's over. Like we're right
Yeah.
there on like, okay, real football. Real
Season Eve.
football is
It's
like right
season
around
Eve.
the
Like
corner. Yeah.
a couple weeks from now, I'm be doing a Ravens preview episode. Like that's
Yeah,
crazy to
man.
think about. But
Yep.
all I wanted to say with the interior room before we move on to linebackers is the one with the most approved to me is Dwayne Carter. Again,
Absolutely.
I think he makes the roster, but he is the one that seems to be, as you kind of alluded to, the odd man out. And it sucks. Like, and I've talked about this on this show multiple times in the offseason. I love Dwayne Carter. I love the person he is.
Yep.
Seems like a genuinely great dude. I root for great people, but I just feel like there's more we could see from him. It wasn't a good rookie year. Injury had a part in that, but also just individual play. I'm not confident in him manning that one tech spot or that nose tackle spot immediately. I just don't think in the NFL, given what we've seen, that's where he would thrive. I think he would thrive better as a pure devoted three. I don't think the Bills have anyone to take his slack, and therefore he has to play that role right now. I'm hoping I could see something from him. Just more of a solid anchor, not getting pushed off, not being the reason that something can be like a run can flow through you. I want to see him show a bit more poise in that position, even if it is just a preseason game. I feel like that would just help everybody, coaching confidence, his confidence going into the regular season where he is going to be asked to do that. And in week one against a really powerful team, a team that can run the shit out of the ball, run on anyone's face, outside, through the middle, with one of the best running backs in NFL history in the backfield, in my opinion. You're,
Yep.
you're talking about a team that's going to test you immediately. And it needs to be a game this upcoming Saturday where you walk away and you say, all right, we can work with this. This is giving us something. It hasn't all been bad, but when you're talking about this room and the uncertainty, I want to see more from him. I think he has the most to prove to kind of confirm that they can trust him to be a rotational one, rotational nose, and that it can be maintained throughout the season. That's really what I have for it. Do you have any final thoughts, John, on the D line before we move on?
Yeah. Dwayne Blastoise Carter
Yeah.
needs to show something, man. He really does. I hate it. I hate that he's basically being pigeonholed into a position that is not his natural position, and that is, in my opinion, bad planning. I don't love that from Brandon Bean in this coaching staff of basically saying, "Hey, we're going to draft this guy, and then we're going to make him play out of position." I don't think they're doing him or themselves any favors with that choice. So, don't love it. I
Yeah.
guess one thing that I'll say is that if we are going to have to play the Ravens this year, at least we're going to play them week one when
Yeah.
the linebackers, Ed Oliver and Daquan Jones, are all healthy. So
Sure. Yeah.
at least you got that going for trying to
And,
stop the
and
run.
it's early and you get him out of the way. With Carter, too, it was like when they drafted him, I thought there was a chance he could actually mold into that Daquan Jones successor. I just feel like that we didn't really see anything in his rookie season to have true confidence that he could right
Yeah.
away. Maybe it can happen. I'm not ruling it out entirely, but I need to see something to prove that. They're giving him a shot. I think, though, given last year and when he did have success, it really came in that three role, and I'd prefer it. So that's really where I'm
Agreed.
coming from there. Moving on to linebacker, again, like the top flight of the room, I feel like it's solidified. Bernard, Milano, Dorian Williams. When you get to the back end, I think Andreessen's gotten so much run that I feel like he's a roster lock at this point. It's more a matter of, do you want to keep five? Do you want to keep six? In my personal opinion, think they're going to go six. I think Shaq Thompson's made the roster. I think he has a spot. I think veteran presence, again, they dealt with some injuries last year. It really showed some cracks in their armor. I think it's necessary to have that type of veteran who still has some juice in the tank to be that guy that can come in, whether it's for coverage, whether it's for run defense. I feel like that's just a nice safety net to have. And I kept you with Fushio too, because I feel like special teams run, you just need the body there. If I had to say anyone with anything to prove, though, I would have said Balin Spector, but that ship has long since sailed and he just couldn't stay healthy, and it's unfortunate.
Yep.
I don't think there's a linebacker on my radar unless you want to talk about wow, I'm blanking on the name now, Jimmy Carlo. But like I'm kind of sitting here like I don't really think there's someone that's going to take any spot away. And I guess if I want to see any of these guys prove something, maybe Andreessen in coverage. Like, let me just see some improvement there. Let me see more discipline. Get to your spot a little bit quicker. Don't take the cheese on any misdirection. I feel like we have so much to like about Andreessen that we're now finally starting to pick out the flaws, but those flaws are very present. And if you want to feel comfortable with him as a middle linebacker, those things have to improve. So I'd like to see that if he gets any run this Saturday. And even if he doesn't, I just want to see that improve in general. What do you think, John?
Yeah, I agree. I feel really good about this linebacker room. It's nice that this group is seemingly healthy going into the regular season, and that to me is wonderful news because all the reports of a healthy Matt Milano are that he is flying around, and that is just terrific news because especially if the secondary is going to be banged up, these linebackers are going to have to really step up in a big way. So yeah, I think I'm good there. You think they're taking 6?
Yeah. Yeah, I
Because of
think they
special
are.
teams? Like, you think that Eddie's gonna make it because of special teams?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
kinda
I
my
think he
thought
will
too.
because of special teams. I think
Yeah.
your primaries are Bernard Milano. Immediate backups are D. Will and Andreessen. Shaq Thompson is like that. I would say they could relegate him to a special teams role, but I think having him on the roster just as like a backup linebacker helps.
Yeah.
And then like, yeah, Yu Fushio, same reason. I don't think he'd play middle, but I think he could be off or he could be probably weak and then special teams. But I don't think he's
Yeah.
really going to get much action as like an actual on-field linebacker. I think it's really just special teams role for him.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I agree. I think those are the 6 that are probably gonna make it.
So now another annoying conversation: defensive
Oh
backs.
god.
Now again, we opened the show up with Trey White. We don't know what his status is as of right now. I don't think anything has been reported in the time we have been live. So I'm not going to assume that he's hurt long term. I'm going to assume in this scenario that he's okay, that we can expect him for week 1. And with that being said, I think if that's the case, he's cornerback too. I think he's earned it. I think it's kind of the worst kept secret in the world that he has it. He's been everything you've wanted from him and for this room, which is why it would really suck if he is hurt. I feel very
Yeah.
comfortable with him as your immediate CB2. And obviously CB1 being Benford. I think that's a really good tandem. I think it allows you the opportunity for Max Hairston to heal up. And I will say this, as I said earlier, I don't think Hairston starts the regular season healthy. I think he's going to be on the IR. I think probably 4 games to get right, to get fully healed, and then come back in October when you're ready to roll and we see what we can do when we ramp you up. Maybe a game day inactive in there, just again, if they don't feel like he's ready, which like people are going to freak the hell out. I don't think that's the case. I think he's just someone that they want 100% because he's a huge investment. And after the Kaiir Elam debacle, they don't want to get that wrong again. I don't blame them. Take your time. There's no rush. If Trey White is healthy, if he's not, it forces your hand a little bit. And it unfortunately, assuming Trey would be out for like 4 to 6 weeks, but now much later in the off season, I think it forces you to try and ramp Hairston up a little sooner. I don't think it necessarily means he wouldn't go on the IR. I still think he would, but I think that when he's off it, it's not going to take very long for them to get him in, and that could lead to some more ugly reps from him, which sucks. I hope that's not the case. But besides them, the back end of the corner room, I mean, there are a few candidates that we have to discuss. Guys like Dane Jackson, Jamarcus Ingram, and Brandon Codrington, who I haven't mentioned in this episode, but Brandon Codrington being their primary returner means that he would have to occupy a spot in this room. And since you only have so many spots in corner, there's an odd man out. So I guess, John, to you, Who do you think that would be, and who do you think has the most to prove to solidify their spot on the starting roster? Active
God.
roster. I keep saying active, not starting. I don't know why I do that.
Uh, this is almost as messy as the wide receiver room, if not messier. And it's because of the injury. We don't know what's going on. But let's say that Trey White is hurt. Then we're in a real tough situation.
Pickle.
Christian Benford as your CB1, Teron Johnson in your nickel, your CB2 position. If Harrison's not available, so we're talking like the first few weeks of the season without White or Harrison is basically what the situation that we're currently trying to handle. I guess it's probably Jamarcus Ingram that gets the nod there, and I think if White and Harrison are both out, you have to keep him, obviously, and I think you got to keep Dane Jackson too, and Brandon Codrington because of what he brings to the special teams. Like I think
Yeah.
you need all those bodies, unless you're looking at Jordan Hancock as someone that can do both. And that's the only thing for me because he is so versatile in that defensive back room that maybe they go, we like what we've seen from you. We think that you have positional flexibility, which matters to us in the secondary, especially with all the injuries, with all the questionable play at safety, with all that stuff. So Jordan Hancock makes the team over Dane Jackson. Like that's one situation that I could potentially
Yeah.
see just because of the difference in roles that he can fill. Right now, safety is such a like alarm bells going off situation for this team
Yeah.
that I think they're looking at Jordan Hancock and going, we got to keep you around for a break glass in case of emergency situation at safety. If the wheels just fall off and Bishop has no confidence and he's getting torched, then you need Hancock up as your 3 behind
Yeah.
Rapp and Hamlin. So I wonder if they're looking at this going, we like the versatility, the tenacity, the experience that Hancock has. He played a lot of football in college at Ohio State, a lot of starts,
And a lot this preseason.
and a lot this preseason. And if they're going, okay, it's him over Dane Jackson, I don't know. And that's if White and Harrison are both unable to go. And
Yeah.
then maybe it changes if and when, one of them comes back. But I'm just thinking that week 1 53-man roster in terms of what it could look like is tricky. I think there's a lot of questions about how you go about this secondary.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm lumping DBs together now, but I think Jordan Hancock is going to make the roster. I would say
Yeah, I
if
did
he's
too.
healthy and can play, then what he has to prove is that just again more disciplined, especially in pass coverage. But I think the run defense component has looked really good from him. There have been some flashes, and I think there's a lot to work with there. And I think he's earned himself a roster spot. I'm a big fan of the pick. And I think the thing with drafting versatile players is it's not what that you want to have to use them in these scenarios, but it's good that you can. Like when I
Yeah.
say that, I mean like you get a versatile player who's okay at a lot of things, but not amazing at one. Then it's like cool. But if we have them playing, then they're just okay. They're going to have bad plays. They're going to give something up, and it's not going to look great. But also too, I think that if you can kind of get them into the NFL level, take advantage of their skill set and put them in a role that you think they're going to be at their best, and they actually end up giving you a return on that, then it's nice that you can have that and then fall back on the opportunity to move them if you need to. Even if it's not going to be as good, it's still better than going and getting someone off the street who doesn't know your scheme and might really struggle, or someone who
Yeah.
simply is too long in the tooth, too old, can't keep up the same way and gets burned. Like I would rather have someone that knows the scheme, comes in, and even if they're not the best at that position, they could still give you like a higher floor than I would argue anyone outside or someone with a worse skill set. So I really like Hancock. And for this exact scenario, Cam Lewis, in my opinion, makes the roster. And
Yep.
even though I have him slotted here as a safety, he has nickel corner ability. And I think outside corner experience in the past, granted, probably not the best, it's an option. So I take them with DeMar Hamlin, Cole Bishop, Taylor Rapp. I think that's your safety room. Again, Hancock and Cam Lewis are freelance DBs, but they have been using Hancock primarily at safety. Same with Lewis because of the situation they're dealing with. But just going back to this corner room, like Benford, White, if White can't go, you already have Hairston, I think, on IR.
I
And
think
you
so too.
maybe put Trey White on IR if it's bad enough. Yeah, dude, I think your CB2 is one of Dane, Strong, or Ingram, but also because of Codrington, do you keep all of them? I don't know. And that to
Yeah.
me is a prove it battle for all of those guys because I don't trust Codrington at all as an actual corner. I love him as a returner. I think his
Yeah.
role is perfectly fine at that, and I want him to stay that, but I don't like him as a corner. I simply don't think he is nearly as good in coverage as any of these other players. I think Dane Jackson is a limited corner. I think Dane Jackson is serviceable in zone. I don't want to see him if we're running cover one, a man coverage, and he's no, I don't want to see that. Dorian Strong, I think of this group, has the most potential to be a very
Yeah.
good NFL corner. I don't know if he's ready for it, but
Right.
it might have to be a trial by fire. And I definitely don't think he's getting cut. They've given him a lot of reps, yes, and he hasn't primarily lined up with the ones, but I don't think they took him when they did with the experience he has, the skill set he has to just cut him over a 1 year Dane Jackson signing, which I think is much easier to part with. If I had to pick an odd man out, even though I talked about McDermott valuing experience and that could propel Dane to the top, maybe they go a different direction and it's Dane who has the most to prove. And if he's not solid, then he's gone and they keep Dorian Strong and Jamarcus Ingram. Maybe they
Yep.
really value Dane's experience and they feel that Jamarcus Ingram is the one that has to go because he might be the odd man out and not looking the best. But to me, if Trey's gone a substantial amount of time, I personally, I think I said Ingram earlier. I feel like that's the safest play right now. I would go with him to take that spot just because, again, it's not my ideal one. But when Hairston and White are hurt at your CB2 room and there's so many question marks, I think he's probably the best of both worlds to at least be a stopgap option there while you wait for these guys to get healthy and eventually become a depth piece again. Maybe that justifies keeping Dane around just in case. But then if you get healthy, one of those guys gets cut. I have no idea. I
I
have
know,
no idea.
dude.
This is one position that like I wanted to stay away from, but I can't because this is a show about the roster, and that would be an awful decision because it's like the most important topic of
We
conversation.
could have just called it after linebackers. Been like, all right,
Could
guys.
just call that the linebackers.
Have a
I
good
don't
night.
know. I truly don't know what the hell they're going to do if White's out long term. This is a new problem. I had a nice sheet here that was very thought out. This has thrown me for a loop. So I'm just going to give you what I'm comfortable with, who I think had the most to prove, but I don't really know what they're going to do if White's gone substantial amounts of time. Any other thoughts, DB?
I love Dorian Strong long term. I couldn't believe that he was still available when we got him. But again, he might have to have a little trial by fire. Like it might just have to happen. So my biggest concern is if White and Hairston are out. My biggest concern is that there's just so much tinkering in the secondary that there's no consistency. That they're constantly trying out different stuff instead of like, this is what we're going to go with and we're going to let this gel at least for a few weeks and then bring White back into it and that moves this person to there. I don't want to see like week 1 you have Rapp and Hamlin at safety and let's say Jamarcus Ingram at CB2, and then halfway through the game, they are like, "This is horrible," and CB2 is getting torched, and we have to go a different route. And then in week 2, you have a dinged up Damar Hamlin, and now you're throwing Cole Bishop into the safety position. I don't want to see this like shuffling in the secondary, and my concern is that a good chunk of the season is going to look like that, and we're not going to know who the starters are until we're deep into the season. And it might just have to be something where the secondary just has to survive every week. Like it could be where the defensive coaching staff is looking at this because of a combination of experience and injuries, where there's just so much tinkering going on and trying out different people at different roles and different situations, that it's going to feel stressful. Like that's the thing to me where I'm like, I don't have good vibes about the secondary right now. It's messy. It's really
I
messy.
like the corner room again coming into the offseason, but the injuries have changed the complexion. That's unfortunate part of football. It happens. It's bad luck. And right now, if Trey White's gone long term, I don't feel terribly great about it outside of Christian Benford. And with the safety room, I was already like, I like Cole Bishop and I want to see him as the starter, but the injuries worried me too. If Cole Bishop had an entirely healthy training camp, I'd be feeling
2
a
years
lot
in a
more
row.
comfortable. But yeah,
2
this
years
is
in a
the
row.
second year in a row. A substantial injury has made him miss time. I still, I, I think it's likely DeMar Hamlin gets the one. I want it to be Cole Bishop that gets the one. I think Cole Bishop, there's a good chance for him too, but like, I'm upset that we had to have the same problem happen. And I feel like just injury has really muddied the waters with the clarity of these positional groups for your 53 man. And I'm sitting here like, I don't know what the hell they're going to do at CB2. Ingram makes me feel the most comfortable. But to be honest with you, like if they went full send and just put Dorian Strong as the immediate CB2, let him like that to
Yep.
me is like, put him in the fire and just let him rock. And maybe it actually works out better than you thought. With safety, though, we're just going to have to wait and see. We got to wait and see what it looks like. When Bishop was healthy, I thought he played well as the season went on. I think that didn't go anywhere. If anything, it's enhanced by having another year, another cycle in the offseason, granted with injury. But to sit in the film room, to sit with Rap, to work on your communication, to get more acclimated to the position full time, to know that that's your spot pretty much. These are question marks I have, but I think it can work, but we just got to see. And it sucks that White. I really hope it's not serious. It's just one question that you didn't want to have that now you have. Like, I really didn't want to see this happen, and I really hope it's not long term. But yeah, I think also too, one final note on the safety room. Haven't talked about Derek Forrest. I think when you talk about most approved, it's him.
Yeah.
What can you really extrapolate from his offseason? He didn't run away with the ones. There's no real talk about him. He's on a cheap 1 year prove it contract, was kind of a journeyman and the odd man out in Washington. I like the idea of bringing him in. I think he's a great athlete. I don't think he's a bad safety. He had some really nice reps when he first came into the league, but it seems like they had their plan in place for how the safety room was going to shake out with, and this is just me speculating. They had their plan in place with how the safety room was going to shake out with room for Forrest to come in and make some noise, make a splash, and take it over. Doesn't look like that's happened. And for that reason, when you have young players like Jordan Hancock, and then you have a utility guy in Cam Lewis, who I think plays more positions and they've trusted to do so, I don't think there's motivation or incentive to keep Forrest here over any of these other players. People might not like Cam Lewis's play. People might hate DeMar Hamlin, but I got news for you. The coaches don't hate DeMar Hamlin. The coaches like
Mm-hmm.
DeMar Hamlin because DeMar Hamlin's available. And even if he's not a great safety, I think he's a perfectly average one. And that's a good thing to have when you have question marks because at least you know what you're getting. And it's not always pretty. He's not the greatest tackler, although he's made some clutch tackles. He's not the greatest in coverage, although he's made plays. He's perfectly fine. And that's the world we're going to have to live in if they don't feel comfortable with Bishop. But I think Bishop could take that spot, but I don't think Forrest is. I just don't think Forrest is making this roster, just putting it bluntly. And I feel,
Yep.
again, it's never anything personal with me, John. I don't want any players to ever take you know, any exception to what I say because it's not mean spirited. It's just based off what I'm seeing. And if I'm wrong, then that means the coaching staff trusts him. That means he's going to get an opportunity and good for him. I mean, make me eat crow, but I just don't see it shaking out that way right now, given what we've seen, given what we've heard, and how it seems they want this room to shake out what their plan was. So, any other thoughts on DBs and secondary, John, before we wrap this thing up?
Quite frankly, I don't want to talk about them or think about them anymore. It's too stressful. It's too much, man. I'm not interested. I don't want to do it.
This episode has been just like a whirlwind. I feel like I'm not buttoned up at all right now, and it's just because this has been the most difficult roster evaluation I've ever had. It's like
it's rough.
It's so tough, and the injuries have not made it any easier. The suspensions have not made it any easier. I miss when it was like, hey, there's one person that might be able to make the roster, but it's probably these 53. No, it's like, man, we got like 20 people that are all fighting for a spot, and there's a case, varying degrees of reality for differing players, and I hate this conversation because it's really hard. But we had to have it, and before we wrap up special teams, I mean, Bass, Ferguson, Robbins, seems like you're three.
Check.
Does anyone have anything to prove? Like Ray Davis, the kicker they brought in from the. I think if Tyler Bass is healthy, he's your kicker. Tyler Bass had a resurgence last year. I think Tyler Bass went through a bell curve of NFL kicking, which seems to happen to everybody, which is start out high and just all of a sudden tank. And then you either continue to tank or you do the thing where you just somehow get better. And he seems to have just somehow get better. Classic capes of the yips. It's a mental position as much as it is physical. If you're not polished up here, you're not going to be polished at your feet. He bounced back, and I don't think there's any reason to entertain moving on from Tyler Bass. And that money would also say no. I'm happy for him. I hope he keeps it up this year. And yeah, I mean, unless the Bills make a sudden pivot to go get like Stonehouse, who got cut and I don't believe signed anywhere, I think they're just rocking with Robbins for the year. And then we just kind of go with that and hope it works because Sam Martin has moved on and there's there's much else to say. So, John, this is a hell of an episode. I feel like I need a beer.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else you want to add that we might not have covered, might not have discussed before we sign off for the evening?
I don't think so. Next Wednesday, we're going to find out a lot. And I think I'm kind of in the camp that you said earlier. The fact that we haven't heard anything about Trey White at this point makes me think that it's not a super long-term thing. So I'm hopeful that he's good for week 1 and that we don't have to have those hard conversations that we were just having anymore.
Yeah, I'm hoping something minor. I'm hoping something very like it was a scare, it was a minor sprain, it was minor. Like I need good news on Trey White's injury because I entertaining the idea of him not being your CB2 when you already lost Hairston is an unfortunate reality. And again, these other corners that they have in the room as depth, fine with, but that depth gets tested when you have them in long stretches, which you would be doing if you had it go Trey White going to the IR.
Correct.
So yeah, I don't really have much else to add, John. I guess just a final thought on this roster. I keep looking at like my roster list too, because I'm just like making sure my count's right. I really think that despite everything we have talked about tonight, and despite the doom and gloom that might be the undertone of this episode, we're still a good roster. We're still a contending team. Like, we're just majoring in the minors to an extreme. And this team has, I think, foundationally set themselves up to be better suited in these types of situations with the injuries and the ambiguity than others, right? Sean McDermott is a coach that has gotten a lot out of DBs that probably wouldn't have gotten shine on other teams with worse player development at those positions. So you can at least feel like there's a baseline skill multiplier for their coaching staff, for their defense, to a point where I think they can sustain if it's only like 4 weeks without Trey White. It's just not optimal. And I don't like the idea of long-term not being your best guy, but that's any case with any injury. For the offense, though, I mean, wide receiver, obviously we want more clarity on the bottom of the room. They're going to run the shit out of the ball. They're still going to be one of the best rushing teams in the league. They're still going to run a lot of play action this year, or at least more than what they were doing, and it's going to be successful. And I think the top flight of their room, especially with Keon Coleman and even though we're talking tight end on this, Dalton Kincaid, if they both take those steps forward, you don't really got to worry as much about the back end of your wide receiver room because your top flight guys, your pass catchers, have developed into something that makes the offense explosive in addition to being a power running team where you're not really thinking about it because it's already good. It's quelling your worry. So there's other opportunities for this roster to improve further, even with some of the ambiguity we mentioned on tonight's episode. And I'm trying to end the show on a positive note. But yeah, injuries sucks, but they're going to weather it. They'll get through it. I still think they're going to be top of their division. I still think they're going to contend. And I hope it's enough this year. I hope the pieces fall into place for them to finally get over that hump, win the whole thing, and make this whole episode look really funny in hindsight. But otherwise, John, I have nothing else to add. I appreciate the hell out of you. I will Joe up. Jesus Christ. I'm making puns on my own name now. I have such a crazy ego. I'm going to put up the Joe Revoir banner to say goodnight, everybody. This is a hell of an episode. If I was all over the place, it's because the roster's all over the place. So I'm just reflecting what I'm seeing on my screen. But despite me being all over the place, I appreciate each and every single one of you for tuning in listening, however you caught tonight's episode. If you are feeling inclined, check the description for your one pass sign up link. $60 a year get you access to some really cool stuff. Our shirt that we partner with 26 Shirts to create, the premium Discord. A lot of good things happening for our insiders on a daily basis, and we would love it for you to become one. Just $60 a year. It's very well worth your time if you're a Bills fan who just wants to talk ball with some other great Bills fans and have access to the content creators on our channel. Please check out all the other shows going on. Air Raid Hour on Monday night. Anthony with Disguise coverage on Tuesday nights. Normally me, but I've been doing Thursdays because schedule reasons. Wednesday, you got the boys in the film room. I've been producing for them, and that's been a lot of fun. You can catch Aaron and Greg Tomset on the Cover One Buffalo podcast that same night, sometimes Thursdays, and catch Turf to Tape. Eric Turner, Sal Capaccio are putting out really awesome, insightful episodes that you should be checking out. It's a good time to be on the network. It's a good time to be talking ball, John, because we have football on the horizon. And John, again, thank you so much. I want to give you the opportunity to plug whatever it is you got going on, wherever people can find you, any projects you want them to check out. The floor is yours, my friend. Take it away.
Might have a project coming here shortly, so stay tuned on that front on my socials. But just find me on the platform formerly known as the Bird app at John Helmkamp. Catch me there, talking ball, talking Bills, talking a little Oregon Ducks too every once in a while when it scratches my fancy. So looking forward to connecting with all of you, and yeah, go Bills.
He said when it scratches his fancy, it perpetually scratches his fancy. And I'm going to share a little story about how the fact that we're in the same dynasty league, I drafted Troy Franklin. And I distinctly said, because John reached out, he's like, oh, you got Franklin. I want Franklin. I'm like, you have someone I want. You have Keaton Mitchell. I want Keaton Mitchell. And he goes, no way, I'm not doing that. I'm like, all right, that's fine. Then, like, I think it was a day and a half later, you text me.
Yeah.
I really want Troy Franklin. I'm like, you know what I want, John. You know what my terms are. And we made the deal. So now he has Troy Franklin. It's go Ducks year round for Mr. John Helmkamp. And unfortunately, in Ducks news, I saw Derek Harmon. I don't know if you saw the Derek Harmon.
Yeah, sprained knee.
It's just a sprain. Okay. I didn't know how severe it was.
It just popped up. Steelers head coach Mike Tomlin told reporters that first-round pick Derek Harmon sprained his knee, and the injury is still being evaluated. So at least it's not a season ender.
An ACL.
Right out of the gate.
Yeah, okay. Yep. Thank goodness, because I was going to say, like, a sprained knee is not great, but it's also, like, more manageable and an easier recovery than a full tear. So good, because I was worried that Harmon just missed the year, and I'm glad he wasn't, because anyone who watches this show and has followed John or myself knows we both love Derek Harmon. Even if he is on the Steelers now, I'm still rooting for the guy. So glad to see it wasn't ending. But yes, guys, please follow John. John is doing draft work basically year round, and you're going to see him post a ton of clips. So if you were trying to be versed on the upcoming class, and why would you not want to be? We are going to talk about it all over this network. And you want to be the coolest person at the lunch table and know all about Peter Woods and the Clemson D-line, then follow John, because he is going to give you a ton of insight, and he is just a great person, great creator, someone who is very well worth your follow. So check him out. Again, guys, this episode was chaos, but I had a ton of fun. We'll see how this roster shakes out, but despite all the worry, let's have some optimism too. It's still going to be a fun season. Bills football is back very, very soon, and I cannot wait to preview that matchup. But for tonight, I'm going to tell you all good night. Enjoy the rest of your evening. This is probably posting during the day, so actually enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you for following along, and as always, go Bills. We will see you soon. Take care, everybody.